Episode 30, 31, and 32 on season 2 of Young Justice built a lot of stuff around a very growing plot. Do I have any idea what that plot is? Absolutely not. Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Cave Chronicles, the breakdown series where we talk about the episodes of Young Justice as we watch them. Currently, we just finished the next batch of episodes, episode 30, 31, and 32. And I wanted to take a moment before we continue on with the series to talk about those episodes, what I thought, theories, conspiracy theories and things that I have, some of the big reveals, and so much more. So if you guys would like to see or hear me talk about a very specific episode, I'll have timestamps down below for each of the 3 episodes we're going to talk about in this episode. I'm going to try to keep it as quick and concise as possible because after the events of episode 32, I really want to know what happens next. But before we get into the breakdown, guys, thanks so much for continuing to support this series. It's been a blast to just be able to have a discussion type video where we talk about the series and I talk to you guys about some of the things I've seen, where I think the series is going from the perspective of someone that has no idea what's about to come next. If you enjoy this video, guys, drop a like on it. It helps more than you know, helps the video get seen by more people, and I really appreciate it. Comment down below what your favorite episode has been of the episodes we've seen in season 2 so far. And if you want to see full episodes, full uncut reactions of each of the episodes that we've seen in season 2 of Young Justice so far, you already know what to do. I'll put a link to the Patreon down in the bio of this video. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys, season 2, episode 4. It's the first episode we're going to be talking about, and it sees a kind of new combination of heroes. You know, we see Superboy team up with Blue Beetle and Wolf, a combination we haven't seen yet in season 2. This is season 2, episode 4, called Salvage, also known as episode 30. And there were some pretty interesting things that happened in this episode. We got to see some familiar faces, that being Bruno Mannheim, as he's continuing to try to scheme. We even got a little bit of a note to Intergang, so it's interesting to see that Intergang's still around. They're still scheming in the background, likely working with the light, and some sort of mysterious benefactor who I don't know if it's the same benefactor we see at the end of this episode, who disrupts this kind of Frankenstein zombie-like fused creature that comes to life, that expresses how deep in pain that they were, which is seen by Jaime, aka Blue Beetle, before it was inevitably destroyed by a mysterious individual who was working side by side with Sportsmaster. Oh yeah, oh yeah, Sportsmaster's back. Now you would think after 5 years, Sportsmaster would have hung up his helmet and, pursued music or something. But somehow, some way, he's still out here. He's still working with the baddies. He's still committing crimes and still finding a way to disrupt our lovely heroes. Now, in this episode, it isn't necessarily revealed who this individual is. I have some theories, but honestly, like I said, I was so far off from the whole mole situation. I don't even trust my own judgment at this point. I have no idea who this individual could potentially be. Obviously, I can imagine it's going to get revealed at some point in the next couple episodes, but it's one of those things where I'm kind of holding off. We're still early on in the season, so I really do want to hold off my theories about who it is until we get a little bit more information. But we do see at the end of the episode, somebody intervenes in the mission, and I'm curious exactly who and what their reasoning was for this. I also would love to know what Sportsmaster was doing in this episode. It seems like he still, like I said, has aligned himself with the bad guys, and I'm curious to know what exactly he's getting into. And this is something that I've always been interested in with the character of Sportsmaster, because we see him a few times back in season 1. We realized at the end of the episode what his significance was, and the fact that he was, and still is Artemis's father. But I would love to know, over the last 5 years, has there been any sort of relationship between them? Has Artemis crossed paths with their father ever since then? Is he still trying to recruit her, or has he kind of given up on that and decided to run solo? I'm curious to know exactly what that is, but I'm hoping that in this season, when it comes to Sportsmaster, I really am hoping that we get to see a little bit more information about how he even became a villain, what his purpose is, what is he trying to accomplish in his villain role. And that's information we never really got back in season 1. I think of all the villains that we ran into back in season 1, we even got a little bit of Cheshire. We learned about what she was up to, and I wouldn't necessarily consider her a villain, as I would consider her just a complicated individual that really does whatever it takes to survive, no matter what that means. But as it pertains to Sportsmaster, he's a character that we saw quite a bit back in season 1, and it seems like we're going to see him again a lot in season 2. And I'm curious to know exactly, if he's not a member of the light, what exactly is he? You know, right now he just kind of seems like a pawn who is just the muscle when it comes to the bad guys' grand schemes. But I really hope that he's more than that, and I hope that he gets an opportunity throughout the course of this season to really showcase what his big motivations are. And to be honest with you, I would love it if he was the big bad. He seems cunning enough. You know, all these years they've clearly never caught him. And even when they do, he finds a way to escape. So, you know, yeah, there's a lot of questions I have about this particular character, and I really hope that we see a little bit more of him. But outside that, I mean, season 4, guys, I feel like it really felt like it was a building block towards some bigger things, right? We saw Bruno Mannheim. He was messing around with some sort of device, and that device was able to bring something to life. I would assume that, you know, when it comes to the writing for this show, nothing is as clear as it seems. But I'd like to think that, you know, based on what we saw in season 1, everything is important. So, you know, this device, it brought something to life and that thing ends up getting destroyed. But I don't even feel like, when I think about this episode, I don't even think that that was the real purpose for this. It was potentially to introduce a mysterious entity, a mysterious figure in the background, and potentially reveal that a bigger plot is forming. And we can kind of start to theorize what we think that plot could be. In terms of theories for this episode, I don't know. I really feel like it was the device that was the important aspect of this episode, and they were really just testing it out. But again, it's one of those things where we're going to have to wait and see. We didn't really find that out in episode 5 or 6, but, you know, I think that is something that's going to become quite apparent probably in the next few episodes. Speaking of episodes 5 and 6, let's talk about episode 5 next. This is episode 31, also titled Beneath. And in this episode, we see Jaime, who was interesting, you know, about this episode is, you know, this episode centers a little bit around Jaime again. You know, we saw this back when he was working together with Superboy in the last episode, and now we're seeing him again as he attempts to kind of stop a friend from making a decision to run away from home. And this decision actually ends up seeing him get abducted. This cascades into a mission that the ladies are sent on. We get a ladies mission, by the way, which is actually pretty sick. We get a ladies mission in which they are also tasked with, you know, stopping the abduction of individuals, and that abduction ends up being revealed that Jaime was one of the individuals that was taken. I'm not exactly sure what they were taken for. Obviously, potentially some sort of experiment or something would be my guess. But, you know, again, this was another episode that really just felt like a building block. I would say of the 3 episodes, 4, 5, and 6, I would say this was probably the least exciting. It wasn't a bad episode by any means. You know, it was cool to see Simon again. It was cool to see the girls go on a mission. I thought that was a fun aspect of it. But I really struggled to understand exactly how this was all going to play out. And obviously this isn't a knock to the episode. I think it was a solid one for sure. But I do feel like, you know, I feel like some important aspects were introduced in this episode, but in terms of what their impact is and exactly how these stolen kids play into the whole thing, I think that's one of those things we're still going to have to figure out. Again, this is one of those episodes, in my opinion, that we've seen, you know, we saw this back in season 1 too, where there were plenty of episodes that really didn't feel vital in the moment, but they were playing on important themes and motivations of the villains that would reveal themselves later on. So I don't want to knock this episode. I think it did have some important stuff involved and kind of highlighting the grand schemes of the villains even further. We saw the device back in episode 31, or back in episode 30, and then in this episode, in episode 31, we're seeing, you know, the abduction of kids, runaways, and exactly why these kids are targeted, or, you know, what they're being targeted for, what they'll be used for, has yet to be seen. So I'm interested to come back to episode 5 after everything is said and done, you know, after we get much later on in the season, and figure out exactly what the grand scheme is and what exactly the villains were playing at with the abduction of these kids. As for now, though, in terms of theories, I don't really have any theories for this episode, guys. I really don't know. I literally went back to this one in particular and tried to watch a few scenes backwards to figure out what exactly it was all playing in. And even at the time, I had a theory that, you know, Miguel, that his friend, Jaime's friend, I think it was Miguel, right? Or Tay. I think my theory was that the dad, the stepdad, was actually involved in it, and that he had something to do with it, and it was going to be a mission for Jaime to, you know, for us to get a little bit more backstory about Jaime and his relationships with, you know, with some of his friends. And that's not what we got. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to play out. But as for now, in terms of episode 5, my guess is as good as anyone else that would watch this show for the first time. Now let's talk about episode 6, what I would consider to be the meat and bones of this trifecta of episodes that we've watched in this current breakdown. And outside of episode 4, which we would consider to be building blocks, episode 5, which also was playing on some things, episode 6, titled Bloodlines, aka episode 32, was an interesting one, and hands down one of the best episodes I think I've seen all season. Now, I may be a little biased in saying this because I genuinely do love speedsters. I love the Flash, love Kid Flash, and loved every episode that I would see them in. Behold, we get an episode centered around a new speedster, Bart Allen, who happens to be the grandson to Barry Allen. Was not something that I was expecting, and I was pleasantly surprised with what we saw. I mean, we saw all the things that I really enjoy. We saw speedsters saving the day, slow motion, awesome fight scenes. We saw what else did we see in this episode? We saw time travel, which felt very Terminator-esque, which I really enjoyed, going to the past to save the future kind of thing. Really enjoy that stuff. It's one of my favorite aspects of Terminator, and especially coming off the heels of watching Terminator Zero, which was the anime version of Terminator, which kind of followed the same suit where an individual gets sent to the past to try to alter, moments. It felt very speedster-esque. And yeah, I mean, guys, this was one of my favorite episodes. The writing was so solid, and it sends you on this journey. Starting at the end of the episode, it actually puts a portion of the end of the episode at the beginning, which, we saw at episode Bereft back in season 1. We've seen it in a number of other episodes where a main piece of the plot is delivered at the beginning of the episode, but with no context. And that leads you on a journey to kind of figure out what exactly is happening. But while you're going on that journey, it's delivering other pieces to you that kind of distract you from that main point until that main point returns later in the episode at the end. It's really cool. It's a very unique case of deja vu that I really enjoy in storytelling. I love when you're given pieces of a portion of the plot that comes and resurfaces, later on in the plot. And it kind of gives you this weird cathartic feeling where you're like, wow, I feel like I've seen this already. I did see this already, and now it's coming back, but with much more context. So now that moment that I saw, so I really enjoyed that. And outside the writing, they wrote Bart Allen so incredible. And seeing this version of Bart Allen, this is obviously isn't a knock to, the CW Flash, but I can understand people's frustrations with that version of not only the Flash, but that version of I don't think people had many issues with Grant Gustin as the Flash. I think he was a great Flash, but I feel like when it came to the kids, I kind of understood, specifically Bart Allen, why people didn't like the character as much. I think the character, this Bart Allen just felt like, I guess, what I kind of would imagine the character to be. Very, very out there, very all over the place, and you kind of got a glimpse of that in the CW Flash. But this one, I feel like really just nailed it. And Bart Allen just feels like a kid high on sugar, and I guess that's where the name Impulse comes from. So, I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and kind of going back to the end of the episode, seeing that this character does have relations to the future and is trying to stop this sort of cataclysmic event from occurring, which, obviously we saw Ground Zero looking like it was the Mount Justice Hall. It was really interesting and presents a lot of questions about the future. And, this is the stuff that I really like. And I feel like episode 6 out of the 3 episodes really was the most, in my opinion, the most related to the overall plot. And now it has questions coming up in my mind about exactly what are we going to see going forward. Obviously with Bart, creating this attempt to stay in the past as he tries to fix the future, exactly what exactly occurs in the future that caused this situation in the first place. So, that's something I'm really excited about. Really cannot wait to see how that all involves, but, unfolds over the, the course of the rest of the season. But it did feel like a very pinnacle moment. And there's some moments that I saw back in season 1 that, that felt very much like 4 and 5 of season 2, in which they were building on something, but then you get episodes like episode 6 that clearly just feels different. Overall, the theme, the tone, it just feels like that's a point in the story that's really kicking it up a level and really, presenting a new, a very dangerous threat. And so, whatever occurs in the future that sends Bart Allen to the past obviously must have been pretty bad. And it seems like it involved the Flash and some other heroes that maybe don't make it. That's obviously my theory. I don't really know what could have occurred. My theory is that, some sort of explosion, maybe an invasion occurs that destroys a lot, and you know, there's not really much left in the world, which is why Bart goes back into the past. But, you know, from watching the CW series, if there's one thing that we've learned about time travel, it's very dangerous. And, you know, even the slightest change could have a ripple effect that is, you know, cataclysmic, even more cataclysmic than what we saw in the future. So I'm curious to know how Bart Allen is going to, you know, delicately maneuver through this situation and what exactly that's going to result in, you know, in the future. But overall, guys, episode 6 was very solid. I would say episode 4 definitely presented some interesting pieces that I think are going to, you know, play out in the future. Episode 5, I'm not exactly sure what that episode was trying to do, outside of, you know, just presenting a girl's mission, which was, you know, again, pretty cool. But I think it's at the end of the episode that I think was really probably the most important takeaway from that episode. And then episode 6, just in its entirety, was a nonstop thrill ride that I thoroughly enjoyed. All in all, guys, this batch of episodes was awesome, and I can't wait to get to episode 33, 34, and 35 when we present our next breakdown of those episodes. As I feel like after the events of episode 6 Bloodlines, I feel like episode 7, 8, and 9 is really gonna present some big changes for the show. I just have a feeling. So I'm excited to see what those changes are and exactly how Bart Allen will play into that. But I hope we get to see Bart Allen a little bit more. I want to see more Impulse. I want to see more speedsters. And, you know, honestly, if there was an animated series that's just about speedsters, let me know in the comments that, you know, if there's one that I should check out, maybe even a speedster short or something that I could check out, like a short film or something that you would recommend. Let me know. I'm all about my speedsters, guys. I love Flash, love Kid Flash. The moment in the episode where he has to get carried because he's just not as fast as Barry or his grandson is absolutely hilarious. But I will say, I'm disrespecting my boy Kid Flash. He's a GOAT through and through, and he may not be as fast as Barry, but the kid is still fast and he can still get the job done. He is as much a hero as anyone else. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. Overall, guys, I love these episodes. They were pretty great. Episode 4 and 5, definitely building blocks. I feel like episode 6, definitely like the step up. Definitely the, you know, obviously episode 6 is really the standout. Overall, though, some great episodes. I'm loving season 2, guys. I really am. Episode 1 presenting some big changes, and then we're kind of seeing the evolution of those changes in this season, while they still like kind of beautifully take you back to the beginning, take you back to season 1. There's moments that are coming back and conversations that are being had that clearly take you back to kind of fill in the pieces about what's been going on over the last couple years. So I think the shell shock of this season is slowly wearing down, and I'm starting to really understand a little bit more, fit in my own pieces of what I think has been happening, and become really excited about the future episodes and exactly how things have changed. This season is definitely a big tonal shift for the show. But it's one that I've really enjoyed, so I'm very happy with it. Overall, guys, let me know which of these 3 episodes was your favorite. Which one stood out to you? For me, it's definitely episode 6, Bloodlines. That was a phenomenal episode, and I can't wait to see more just like it. And if you enjoy this episode, you already know what to do. Dropping a like on this video greatly helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new here and would like to become a part of the ultimate watch party. And if you would like to watch these episodes in their full uncut versions, you already know what to do. Hit the Patreon link down below and become a member, hang out with us, talk about this show that we all love, and in this journey that we're all going on together. I really appreciate you guys supporting me through this experience. Everybody has been so cool, so supportive. The memberships over there on Patreon have been absolutely mind-blowing. I'm completely taken aback by the support you guys have shown to me, not only as a creator, but as a fan of this new show that I'm experiencing, and allowing and giving me the space to enjoy the show, even when my theories are absolutely wrong. You guys let me have those theories, you let me experience it, and when I inevitably end up being wrong in future episodes, you guys don't shame me about it. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the love and the support, guys. It means more than I could possibly say. And be on the lookout for more episodes coming very soon. As always, guys, that's your breakdown for episode 30, 31, 32. Really enjoyed this group of episodes, and be on the lookout for the next 3. As always, guys, that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.